This episode is brought to you by Onyx Off-Road, the perfect app for getting you out on adventures, but also, in this case, getting you home from those adventures. So as you can tell by the title of the video, my Tacoma is currently broken and I'm kind of limping it to my next destination. I was just out for the past 2 nights filming with the Onyx Off-Road crew for their Go Further series with Holly, and you'll be able to find those videos over on the Onyx channel here very soon. We made it to our campsite last night and I found out that my truck was broken, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Now the road getting in there was a little bit rocky, a little bit technical for taking a broken vehicle on, but luckily I had offline maps downloaded, which allowed me to find an easier route back out to the road to get some help. And if I did not have those maps downloaded, it would have made my life a lot more difficult because I did not want to backtrack through the terrain that we were just on. You guys have seen me using Onyx for the past 5 videos now, and if you haven't tried it already, I highly recommend it. You can use code SCI20 for 20% off of any subscription level. I personally would recommend the Elite version because it gives you access to the most data, like public and private land data. So check it out and let's get into this story. Now, this all started the morning after I talked to you guys last. If you caught the last video, Sam and I were out around the Flagstaff area and we had some gnarly weather getting to the campsite for that night. There was hail and thunderstorms and sandy, rocky sections, mud. There were some puddles that we had to smash through that were like up over my wheels, and the truck went through the ringer that night for sure. In the morning when we woke up, I noticed as soon as I moved the truck and we started leaving the campsite that my brakes were making some pretty terrible noises. I couldn't really pinpoint what it was, but it essentially sounded like I had some kind of sand or debris stuck between the pads and the rotors. The front sounded okay, but the back was really where the problem was, specifically my passenger rear brake setup. I made it out of the campsite. We went up to Overland Expo West in Flagstaff, and the truck sat there for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday when I actually left Expo to go meet the Onyx Off-Road crew for filming that series. So I met up with them up near the Grand Canyon and we did 2 different nights of camping with a lot of off-road. The first night we went about 25 miles, found a really cool campsite. The next day we rode about close to 85 miles off-road until we came to the campsite that I woke up at this morning. Now when we were setting up camp and kind of walking around checking things out, someone pointed out that my truck was dripping, and I thought it may have just been from some creek crossings or whatnot, but no, it was definitely my brake. So I crawled underneath the back of the truck and inspected it like I did before, but this time you could tell there was a lot more damage. The rotor looks absolutely terrible, and then there was a little piece of black metal sort of hanging out the bottom of the caliper, so pulled out a multi-tool, grabbed on it, yanked it out, and it was the backing to my brake pad, which was no longer there. The brake pad on the right rear has completely left the chat. So, there once was a brake pad, and I don't know where it went. Does that count as littering? I hate people who litter on trails. I picked up that chair that was just laying on the side of the trail, and now I'm leaving my brake pads out there. It's not good. There's fluid dripping down into my wheel all over the tire. It must have done it kind of recently before we got to camp because it was actually slinging up in the wheel well, but it wasn't enough of an issue to actually cause any lights to come up on my dash. Now my next problem was that I have steel braided brake lines, which means I can't really pinch them, nor did I really have a tool to pinch them. So we kind of followed the line back, and our next best option to stop brake fluid from leaking out of the back was to take a hammer, like a mini sledge, and smash the absolute out of the hard brake line. I'm afraid I'm gonna puncture through the, oh, there's like a coating on it. Yeah, I guess hit the brakes just very lightly. Little tap tap. Oh yeah, stop. Dude, that is pouring out of there. It looks pretty flat, but I don't know if that's gonna stop it from pouring fluid everywhere. So I flattened the hard brake line up against my C4 diff skid mount and pinched it completely off. I pumped the brakes a couple of times and luckily that stopped the leak. We slept for the night, woke up this morning. I kind of inspected things once again after just rolling the truck off of the rocks, pumping the brakes a couple of times, and nothing was leaking. But now just about every single light on my dashboard was on. ABS light, brake light, traction control light, all of the sensors going off, and the truck was basically telling me to stop and park it in a safe place because I had no brake power. I then found the new route out of where we were. It was luckily pretty mellow and I didn't touch the brakes the entire time. Went over some creek crossings and stuff a little bit too hot, but I made it out with little to no brake power. Once we were back on the road, we had about 20 minutes to the first gas station, which happened to be at the top of Grand Canyon National Park. And of course, the store was closed. I could actually see through the window and they had brake fluid sitting on the shelf right there, but no one was there, so we had to continue on. I basically drove with the truck in fourth, third, and second gear the entire time down the backside of the mountain through the national forest. And I was really trying not to touch the brakes as much as possible. It felt a little loose, but it wasn't going completely to the floor. If I had to emergency brake, I probably could have, but I really didn't want to test that out. So luckily we made it back down into town. I found some Prime Blend Premium Brake Fluid .3 right here. Filled up the reservoir and all of my lights went off immediately. I checked it out in the back after pumping the brakes a couple of times and it seems like hammering that line flat did a good job. So the truck is driving fine right now. I'm still trying not to touch the brakes as much as possible, and I have about 600 miles left from where I'm at just across the Utah border until I get back into Denver, Colorado. So the truck is broken and I'm driving on 70 with some questionable brakes, which is not going to be good. But I'm just gonna take it easy, engine brake all the way down through the mountain passes on 70, four ways on, and I think I'll make it home all right. If you're watching this video, you know that I made it home all right. So with all that being said, the truck is broken, I'm limping it home, I'm going to take it right into Running for Tacos tomorrow morning. I already was able to give them a call and order all of the parts that I need, so hopefully it's a pretty quick fix. The truck isn't completely down and out, obviously I'm still driving it, but I just figured I would share that story with you guys in case you run into something like that in the future. Now that being said, truck is broken. Is it time to buy a new Tacoma? I really didn't film the entire time I was at Overland Expo West. However, I did have the opportunity to go and check out the new Tacomas, which absolutely everyone has been talking about on the internet. I had some one-on-one time with the two vehicles that they had there, and those happened to be the 2024 Tacoma Pre-Runner as well as the Trail Hunter models. Now, I was originally interested in the Pre-Runner, however, it is kind of going back to the original Pre-Runner roots. This was one of the first ones that they had ever built. It is two-wheel drive. It has a leaf pack in the rear that goes underneath the axle. The interior is kind of bare bones, but it is a little bit refreshed when comparing it to my truck like this right here. They have a new infotainment screen. The one they had in there was, I believe, maybe like a 10-inch model, so not much different than my current truck, which is a 21 axis cab. I was interested in the Pre-Runner because it looks like an axis cab. It has a short cab, and they're actually calling it an extra cab now. Unfortunately, the axis cab is no longer, but that thing did have a 6-foot bed, Two-wheel drive though, not really something that I'm interested in. And then I moved over to the Trail Hunter version, which is kind of still in like the prototype phase. It's obviously not a complete production product as of right now, but it actually looked pretty good. Photos of the chase rack and some of the other accessories on there, in my opinion, really didn't look good. So looking at that was kind of underwhelming. However, I will say that it did look better in person. The interior on that one, again, just a prototype, but you could really get a feeling for the layout of what the new Tacomas are going to be like. As soon as you open the door, the card inside of there had some sort of like MOLLE panels all over it, and it seemed like it has a ton of storage. And then once I moved to the inside, there are some cool features like a sway bar disconnect, which is so rad. They had a few different switches in there for accessories, so I don't know what models those are going to come in. There are some people there filming videos, and I'm sure they have a lot more information than I do. This is just my opinion on it. So the Trail Hunter version definitely looked nice, and it got me thinking, maybe I do want to get into a new Tacoma, because it would be cool to build something like that, like I've been doing here on the channel quite a lot as of recently. Now, out of those two options, those were probably the ones I was least interested in. I would really be curious to check out the TRD Pro or the TRD Off-Road with my own eyes, hands-on, get a really good feel for the new infotainment screen. They do have a 14-inch in some of the higher models. Since there's no access cab with a rear door, my dreams were crushed a little bit, but maybe I would go with the 4-door short bed hybrid, making like 465 foot-pounds of torque or something crazy like that. The Tacomas that I looked at were a little bit early, however, it did get me excited to see what is coming here in the next couple of months. I believe we may see Tacomas hitting dealers within the next 6 months, so maybe October, November, December timeline. As of right now, I do not need another vehicle. I am, of course, going to be fixing the Satlander. I'm going to put a lot more miles and adventures on this thing all throughout the rest of the summer, but I just wanted to throw out some of those clips and share some of the information that I found out about the new Tacomas, because I'm sure you guys are excited. Let me know what you think about those in the comments down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you left a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, share this with your families and friends, and if you're new here, consider subscribing, because I make new videos every single week. As always, thank you for watching. I'll talk to you in the next one.